Okay, we're back. It's been a couple weeks. I was away last weekend, which is why we didn't record last week. But we're back. 215 Scoop. I'm James Gilardi. This is my co-host Asher Pileggi. How you doing, Asher?
I'm excited. It's fun time. Drafts around the corner. That's always a good time to be a sports fan, and
Yeah.
it's a good time to be a
uh,
Sixers
yeah.
fan.
Oh my God. So Sixers offseason is barely beginning, and we're already being flooded with rumors for everything when it comes to a Matisse Thybulle and the 23rd pick, PJ Tucker, the James Harden news. A lot to get into today, but mainly we're going to be focusing on our offseason outlooks, and what we would like the Sixers to do, and what's really realistic and what's going to happen. So Asher, you can start us off with what what you would like to see from the Sixers this offseason.
Yeah. So starting off tonight is Wednesday. We have the draft tomorrow as of recording. I would really love to see us grab some role players again. I mean, this offseason, I think a lot of Philadelphia fans are understandably being upset with the standard. Want to see some big changes. They want to put some heads on pikes. We want to see Tobias Harris out of here. I mean, I've people are calling for a James Harden trade. I don't agree. I think that this is a team that is going to gel over the offseason. I think there's a chance, not a chance. I think that this is a team that is going to be a playoff contender uh, when Harden's healthy and they're all just kind of gelled and feeling good. We just need to add a few role players. So tomorrow, I would either like to see us grab an NBA ready guy. So I've seen EJ Liddell, a lot of guys like him in Philadelphia. There's a center for Duke, Mark Williams, 7'2", great shot blocker, good rebounder. Kind of fills that backup center role that we had very briefly with Andre Drummond and left with the trade. Other than that, a trade that I would like to see is the Sixers trading the 23rd pick, and probably it would take Thibault over to the Nuggets for Monte Morris and Will Barton. Will Barton is a really good 3-and-D guy, which is something that we didn't really have this year, and now we definitely have less of with Danny Green's injury. So we need some three-point shooters. We need a good defensive wing off the bench that is actually playable in the playoffs. Matisse Thybulle is not that guy, as we've seen in playoffs past. And Monte Morris is a really good distributor. He has one of the highest assist to turnover ratios in the NBA. So good lead guard off the bench, which we also don't have at the moment. So I think that fills two really important spots for any playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. Um, the only problem I have with what you're saying is that I don't think we can rely on James Harden, kind of all of a sudden becoming, you know, a version, his 2018 version. We can't rely on him becoming healthy. I mean, he's an old guy. I can't remember his age off the top of my head. I think he's what 30. He's gonna be 30,
33 ish.
33.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably
so
gonna be
he's old, and he has that hamstring injury. And
mhm.
as we've seen with other guys in the league, it, it doesn't really heal entirely, especially when you're playing the game of basketball and you hurt it as bad as James Harden did. It's just the idea of of simply relying on James Harden to somehow be spectacular game in and game out instead of like the sporadic one game out of like 10 that we'll get, where he drops like nearly 30 points. Um, I don't think it's realistic to rely on that for next year, and I think we need probably a couple other pieces. Now, there's a lot that the Sixers have to do this offseason to really, really become a contender. I agree with you that this team has a lot of the foundation for a championship contender, and they still are. But you know, James Harden's not reliable. Our bench is atrocious. So I think trying to upgrade that bench And we also have Tobias Harris, who is a massive liability, financially, and also on the court most of the time. He came up big in the playoffs, but you know, um, given his nearly $40 million contract, I really don't think it would be smart to keep him for next year. So my goals for this offseason, I do want to pick up some free agents. Um, Now I don't know how realistic this is, but I really want to. My number one is acquiring Andre Drummond. I really like him. We all love him. Now, likelihood of him wanting to come back here after we dealt him to Brooklyn, I don't know how likely that is from his perspective, but he showed us that he is the perfect backup center behind Joel Embiid, which we all know Joel Embiid, suffers injuries with everything he went through this playoff run.
Mm.
But if we had Andre Drummond, I guarantee we would have been in a lot better shape instead of having to do like DeAndre Jordan and then have to pretty much bully Doc Rivers into playing Paul Reed. You know, I think if we had Andre Drummond, it would have helped us a ton. So he's my number one. Not a big signing or anything, but he would definitely help the depth of this team a ton. He helps us the boards. We all saw it.
Yeah.
Number two, I do really like the trade that you proposed, and I honestly agree with that. I really like Will Barton. Really, he he's like a perfect. If I had to describe him perfectly, he's like a perfect hybrid between Matisse Thybulle and Danny Green. Uh,
Mm.
except he's a more consistent shooter, and he also provides that perimeter defense that Matisse Thybulle brings to the court. So I think he would be a perfect candidate for a trade. Perhaps throwing Furkan Korkmaz if you're going to be, looking for anything else. He's another guy I would like to see dealt. I love Furk. Love what he did in the summer league. 4 years back where he dropped like 40. I don't
Right.
know if anybody remembers that, but I remember it. Um, but he's a guy that I would like to go, but definitely acquiring some key role players, um, and another guy that everybody has their eye on is Bradley Beal. Now, this only can happen. I don't know if the financials are really going to work out, and if we can really take on Bradley Beal, because we also are in the market for guys like PJ Tucker and
Mhm.
Eric Gordon, um, who are going to be a little bit of money. So he's a guy that I would like to see. I personally I don't see it very realistic. It's not very realistic that we could really acquire him, but he would definitely be a tremendous help for this team. We would have a really like a big four with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, if you want to count him, and Bradley Beal. He would Bradley Beal. We all know his game, and he said earlier in the offseason, probably a few days back, that his decision during free agency is going to be based upon the greatest opportunity to win. And the Sixers obviously have just about everything they need to win outside of a bench. Um, so I think Bradley Beal could really look at the Sixers and be like, yeah, I mean that's a good place to go. It's just a matter of the Sixers being able to financially afford that. Um, but yeah, back to what I was saying about PJ Tucker. There's been breaking news within the last day or so that the Sixers are aggressively pursuing PJ Tucker uh, and are looking to sign him to a 3-year, $30 million contract. Um, Personally, I don't like the news. I don't
I
know about you,
agree.
Ash.
No, PJ Tucker is 37 years old. At the end of that deal, we would be paying a 40-year-old PJ Tucker $10 million a year. I
Yes.
think. I think this year, like if we sign him, I think towards the end of this year, that's going to start looking bad. I think it's going to look terrible by the time that contract finishes. Love PJ Tucker's game, but he is 37.
Yeah, no, I'm completely on board. If I'm being honest with you, they're two different players ish. But this gives me Al Horford signing vibes.
Mm.
I don't know. He's like maybe because he's big and he's bald or something like that. But I don't know. It just gives me the same vibes, man. Like we signed Al Horford to try and run a double big lineup here.
Right.
Obviously, it just didn't work out. PJ Tucker, I don't know why we want to bring in another old head here. We have James Harden we already had to deal with. I don't know if we want another headache with PJ Tucker. But I would not be surprised if the Sixers pulled that move off because, Daryl Morey is in love with his little Houston, little
Yeah.
trio that he had there with everything. So,
He
he's
wants to
he's
bring as
probably
many pieces back from that 2018
trying.
Western Championship run as he can.
Yep, yep.
He's
And
still doing it these
I
days.
mean, PJ Tucker, I love him as a player. He definitely brings the aggression and the mental toughness that the Sixers need in the playoffs. I mean, we've
Mhm.
seen the past 2 years, 2 or 3 years, any team that PJ Tucker's been on has made a deep playoff run. This year, this with the Bucks winning the championship last year, and then this year with the Heat. You know, eh, I mean, he definitely is a good player to have. But I do not. The only thing I really do not like about that news is the contract. Me personally, I would sign PJ Tucker to a 2-year, $20 million year, $20 million contract.
Right.
Um, yeah, because that third year, I don't care. I mean, if you're paying him anything over 10 million for that year, it's going to be atrocious. He's 37 years old. He's at the tail in his career. It's just bound to just go downhill. And when with the Sixers' luck, it's just going to happen in the middle of the season.
Right.
So
Yeah.
another thing. Um, Now, other news that I read is that the Sixers are looking to package Matisse Thybulle, the 23rd pick, trying to work a three-way deal, and possibly trying to acquire Eric Gordon in that deal. I haven't really looked into different trade scenarios for that. It's really really intricate, especially trying to simulate three-team trades. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, Ash, but I I don't know how I feel about Eric Gordon. He's definitely the better option, outside of PJ. I definitely would rather have him, especially with the, incredible age difference. I think Eric is 33.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
did
He's
Yeah,
around there.
he's early 30s. I mean, I haven't watched his game that much, so I don't really know. You could probably give more insight than I can. Um, but, I've seen some of his highlights, and he seems like a pretty nice role player that we could have here.
He's definitely a spark plug off the bench. Very good shooter, can handle the rock. The defense is not there. I don't think that's the kind of player that we need right now. I think that he'd kind of be like a super Shake Milton, but we already have Shake Milton. I think he performed well
Yeah,
enough in that playoff run that he earned himself a spot in the rotation next year. So I'm not
I
really looking to get a player in the same archetype.
yeah. See, the Sixers, they really need some aggressive, quick, offensive players. We could really use the transition defense,
Yeah.
obviously, but I think if we acquire, um, I'm blanking on the name from the Nuggets. Dang
Will
it.
Barton.
Yeah, if we acquire
Yes.
a guy like Will Barton, I think we'd be pretty okay in that department.
Yeah.
But there's only so much we can do in an off season. Um, so yeah, that's really it. Do you have any other thoughts on
I
everything?
got a I got a question for you since you're talking about you kind of threw around the word like Tobias Harris trade or just talking about the future where we have a big four not including Tobias. What does a Tobias Harris trade look like this offseason? Because that contract is
It
to me very difficult to unload, probably
well,
impossible.
what it would likely be is you would probably package Tobias Harris. It would be a three-team trade.
Mhm,
You would have to probably trade Tobias Harris to a team like the Wizards I don't know. I haven't really gone into that detail, but definitely would have to be a three-team trade with all the finances and everything. But
mhm.
I'm thinking it would be had to be like Tobias Harris, Furkan Korkmaz, and maybe you can throw in Danny Green. Um, I mean, if you really wanted to, you know, we could do like a Matisse Thybulle and Tobias Harris deal, and we could just get a bunch of like role players, maybe one starter in return. Um, that's it would have to be a three-team trade.
Mm.
Um, because no team's gonna take on that contract, alone, and we can't take on like 7 players in return for that contract. So
Yeah,
I think it would definitely have to be a 3-team trade, whatever that might be. The whole situation is kind of really complicated because that contract is really really lethal, and no team really wants that. And I've heard news that the Sixers are trying to shop Tobias Harris, but they're not really gaining any traction because
right.
of the contract.
Yeah, I've heard
Um,
that as well.
so honestly, I would not be surprised if we went into the 2022 season, um, with Tobias Harris on the roster. We might just have to ride his contract out, honestly. Um, but if we could, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. We need another, good starter. Um, we just need some good 3-point shooters. We've been saying this for years now. We need 3-point shooters. We need to be
Right.
able guys to be able to shoot because that's the game now. That's the
Yeah.
game.
Feels like the
Um,
Eagles with wide receivers,
exactly,
which finally
exactly.
changed this year, but that's
Yeah,
for a different pod.
maybe the Sixers can take notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they
Bring
can.
Howie Roseman over here.
Hey, the Eagles have been idiots with wide receivers, and now they finally have their shit together.
Yeah.
Hey, we should do the same thing with 3-point shooters. I don't know, man. It's just frustrating. Really, really frustrating.
Yeah.
But, you know, something else that's really frustrating is that I was listening to, Ike, Marks and Reese on 94.1 yesterday.
Mm.
John Marks starts going on about, "Oh, Joel Embiid is unhappy here. We should deal him." Trade Joel Embiid, the guy who just
No,
came off of what should have been an MVP season.
I'll
I
pass.
it blows my mind. First of all, what kind of trade package is he gonna get? Because this is probably one of the top 3 players in the league
Mhm.
easily, you know? So if you trade him, you're probably not gonna get as much back because he's like one of the greatest centers that we've seen since Shaq,
Yeah.
you know? Uh, I don't know. It just completely blowed my mind. I'm just fidgeting with this. It just completely blew my mind that somebody would say something so outrageous. Like,
And to give that any I don't wanna give that any credence because Joel Embiid is Philadelphia. He's the MVP runner-up the past 2 seasons. He's staying in Philly. He's gonna retire a Sixer. But say we did want to trade him, or there was an inkling in Daryl Morey's head about trading Joel Embiid. You have to remember how stuck he was on getting the perfect trade package for Ben Simmons. He
Mhm.
needed a player who was top 25. He sat on it. He waited. He got Harden. For Joel Embiid, what do you sit on? Are the only 2 players where it's possibly an upgrade are Nikola Jokic or Giannis Antetokounmpo, and we're
Okay,
not
wait,
trading
wait, 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 wait. I'm gonna hold you there. Did you say Nikola Jokic is better than Joel Embiid?
a possible upgrade. If Daryl Morey says, "All right, I'm trading a top 3 player. I want a top 3 player," you know?
Okay, that
Are
makes
the
sense.
Nuggets gonna give
I
us Nikola Jokic? No.
I guess because Nikola Jokic and Joel are like eye to eye. So I mean,
Right.
I guess.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but he's not better than Joel. I'm still gonna stick with that. He's not better than Joel, but you know, I get your point. I really
Yeah,
don't think. I mean, who you gonna get for Joel Embiid, and you're gonna sit there and be like, "Yeah, I won that trade."
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, what are you gonna trade Joel Embiid for Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant? That little shit show,
Right.
bring it over to Philly? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Like, I don't know. Like,
I don't
what?
even think the salaries work out on that. There's really
Yeah,
no way that you could
not
possibly trade
even.
him.
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
you really wanted to trade Joel, if you wanna do a Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, I don't know. Like, I the idea is so blasphemous to me that I haven't even put much thought into it because it's just, like, so stupid. But,
Yeah.
like, I do get here's what I'm gonna say. In 2 years, one thing I'm gonna say about this offseason is that we cannot run it back with the same crew. I mean, you're saying like, "Oh, let's hope the
Yes.
team's gonna mesh, and it's gonna be all sunshine and rainbows, and we're gonna make it to the playoffs, and then we're gonna go to the finals with
You
the same
have
crew."
significantly
It's
less faith in James Harden than I do. I
I
think
do. I
that's probably where
do.
we differ.
Why should I rely on a guy that's going to give me the James Harden that we traded for once every like 6, 7 games,
Yep.
and then barely come out in the playoffs. Why?
Right.
Why am I going to sit here and be like, "Yep, he's the missing piece. He's the guy we needed for to make it to the finals"? No, no, no. It's not how that works. We need another piece. If we're going to keep James Harden, the finances are going to be difficult, but
Mhm.
we need another piece. We need. I mean, bench depth would help, but we need start. I mean, starters get more minutes in the playoffs, so we're going to make a deeper run in the playoffs. We need some solid starters. But yeah, I mean, it's just insane. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant there, but Jesus
No,
Christ,
I
so
think I got you started with the Nikola Jokic Embiid comparison. Riled you up a
Dude,
little
you
bit.
pissed me off with that, man.
Yeah.
You pissed me off with that. Don't say that shit again, dude. Don't say it again.
I
So
forget I'm talking to diehard Embiid. I mean, not that I'm not a diehard Embiid fan, but
yeah.
these
No, I mean, you're more of an NBA fan than I am. I mean, I watch the NBA. I love the NBA, but like for me, it's like Sixers, 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 Sixers. Like that's me. Sixers
right.
over everything. Sixers over everything, baby. Screw the Nuggets. Screw the Celtics. Everybody, dude. They all suck. Sixers, Sixers solo, man. Sixers solo.
So
Everybody.
I think
Anyway.
one thing that we agree on, trying to bring us back, Will Barton
Yeah.
is number one. Starter number one.
Well, number
Outside
one
of
realistic.
Bradley or something like
Number
that.
one realistic. Bradley Beal isn't very realistic unless Daryl
Yes.
Morey. Well, what we really need to happen is that we need to get Howie Roseman into the Sixers front office and
Right.
figure out all this money because he's a freaking master at it. With the Eagles, I mean, he's dug us out of so many holes over there. I know this is a Sixers podcast, but oh my
Yeah.
god, so much. But I definitely agree. Back back to what you were talking about. It's 10:30 at night right now, so I mean, I just drank like an energy drink like an hour ago because I'm so smart. So I'm off the walls right now. But
Yeah.
I definitely agree. That he's definitely the number one most realistic trade
Mhm.
candidate for this year. Obviously, we'll see how everything plays out. Um, but I
By
mean,
the time that people are watching this, it
yeah,
will be past draft night. Outside of a trade involving the 23rd pick, I don't know how easy it would be for us to acquire Will Barton. So
mhm,
hopes may have already dissipated by the time that this video is out.
yep,
But either that or we'll be jumping up and down because Will Barton is a Sixer.
yeah, yep. So let's go. We're gonna do a little improv. Um, say if the Will Barton, the draft night passes. I mean, you guys will be watching this by the time draft night passes, but for the hell of it, because we have a little bit. Um, say if draft night passes and there's no Sixers deal,
Hmm.
and we take whoever with the 23rd pick. What? How does that change things, Ash? Like, does that throw your entire offseason off course? How does that change things for you?
There's a chance that it does if we take a player like a Jaden Springer from last year that's going to be sitting in the G League all season. No disrespect to Jalen Springer, there's potential
Mhm.
there. There's a chance that in a couple of years we're talking about him as a starter on the Philadelphia 76ers. But right now he is a starter for the Philadelphia Bluecoat or the Delaware Bluecoats.
Yeah.
And that does not help the Philadelphia 76ers in the playoffs very much.
No.
We need this is a team that made certain that the championship window is within the next 2-3 years after the James. When we made the James Harden trade, we said we're going to try to win a championship in these next 3 years.
Mhm.
So that kind of team that needs bench players needs to draft an NBA ready player in the end of the first round. There's not many of those in the end of the first round.
It's hard to find those top 10
Yeah.
kinda NBA drafts are just dry. I mean, you watch the top 3 picks and you're like, "Ah, whatever." And
Right.
that's
A
just
lot of those guys past the top 3. You got guys in the lottery that are going to spend most of the year in the G League.
yeah,
You never
exactly.
really know. You got guys like Tyrese Maxey, but then you got guys like Jaden Springer.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I don't do too much draft research because I mean, I do more NFL draft research than NBA draft research, but it's hard to find talent, um, that's going to be noteworthy, within the near future,
Mhm.
especially in these times where the Sixers need to win now.
Yeah.
It's hard to do a draft outlook when you're not thinking 3, 4 years down the road. You're thinking about right now. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to go into the NBA draft and find a player that's going to come right out of the draft and play in the NBA outside of the top 3 or 4. So I mean, I know you're a big draft guy, and I know you like to go into all that. But me personally, I just haven't really bothered because I really think the Sixers' main focus this year is going to be via trades and free agency, which starts actually a week from tomorrow as of recording. Um, so really, really exciting. I'm nervous. I'm anxious. It feels like February feels like trade deadline day all over again
Mhm.
with all the rumors and everything, minus the Ben Simmons bullshit. So,
Yeah,
uh,
that is
so
a weight off the shoulders.
yes. So, um, speaking of that, just just for the hell, just why not? I saw what was it, an Instagram post or something, and it was a photo of Ben Simmons, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Enjoying my vacation."
Mhm.
And somebody commented on there. He was like, "Vacation from what?"
Yeah, you've been
It's
on
like
vacation for the
you
past year and a
you
half.
took the entire year off because of mental health. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then here's another thing that I saw when I was scrolling through. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. When I was scrolling through Instagram, I follow this, like, fake Woj page, and I
Yeah.
occasionally put on my Instagram to screw with people that actually care about basketball, even though it's, like,
Yeah.
90% of the people
I've
that
fallen
follow
for
me.
some of those before.
Yeah, so I saw one where it was, picture of Ben Simmons, classic, ESPN headline, Ben Simmons retiring
Yeah.
because of mental health. And I saw that, and we texted the Pick Swap podcast, that group chat, and I was like, "No way, Ben Simmons is actually
Yeah,
retiring because
I
of."
remember that.
Yeah, yeah. So shit like that, but I just found it funny. Um, but yeah, Asher, any final thoughts on anything? Do you have any questions?
Just real quick with that,
Okay.
as much as you might dislike James Harden with the hamstring and paying him $47 million, you have to admit it's better than dealing with a guy that's not playing.
Yes, I
All
will
right.
say that,
All
and
right.
I think we forgot to go into one thing. James Harden, um, the the news with him, he's opting in
Mhm.
to his player option as of right now.
$47 million, I believe
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
47 million, and then I have to go back and read the numbers, but I think we're planning on signing him to a 2-year extension.
Mhm.
It's less than a max contract.
Right.
Which, in my opinion, that smart move. Smart move. I would not pay him a max because I'm not paying uh, a 30. I guess it's since 2 years. I'm not paying a 37-year-old James Harden $50 million. I mean,
Right.
he's already severely regressing now. So,
Mhm.
I mean, is he even going to be relevant in 3 years? Like at this point, I mean, I love James Harden. I mean, kind of. Um,
Love your relationship.
yeah, it's a love hate relationship. Like, what was it? Game 3.
Yep.
Yeah, I loved
Classic
him.
James Harden game.
Yep, I loved him. But everything since then, and even before then, it's been very, very underwhelming. I've been
Yeah.
severely hurt once again by the Philadelphia 76ers. So,
You know how the logistics of it work, how badly he wants to get an extension now. I would love for this to be his prove year. Getting paid
oh,
$47 million for a prove year, that's not so bad. But and
yeah,
then let him walk if he's kind of the underwhelming player that we
yeah,
saw.
that's the thing. That's another thing that the Sixers make a mistake with all the time. We saw this specifically with Tobias Harris,
Mhm.
and we did it with Ben Simmons. We paid him in anticipation of him living up to the money.
Right.
I don't. I mean, sure, the 2-year extension doesn't sound like a bad idea, but even better, and I think this is what we would all want. Well, most of us, because James Harden is like your boyfriend, Asher. Um, so uh, I definitely agree with the idea of just having him accept his player option, see how this year plays out, and then give him the extension next year, maybe midway through the year. I don't know,
Right.
however it plays out. But I don't want the Sixers to make the same mistake they've made countless times now, paying guys big bucks without getting the results or before getting the results. So,
Right.
because then we'll have a Tobias Harris kind of thing going on again.
Yeah, have two of them on the same roster.
Dude, I'm sweating from all this. It's also hot as balls in this room. All right. Anyway, we should wrap up.
Yeah.
That'll do it. This is a very nonchalant episode today, not very serious. A lot of raging. Talking about the Philadelphia 76ers. So what can you expect? But yeah, thanks Ash for coming on.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sean Bernard, James Baran, the hosts of Pick Swap Pod. Go give them a follow on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and especially on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe here on Pick Swap Media, and to follow our accounts on all social media as 215 Scoop on TikTok, 215 Scoop on Instagram, and
on Twitter at 215 Scoop PSM.
Yes. So give us a follow. As always, thanks for watching.
Yeah.